In Disney's Moana, we get introduced to a character named Heihei. This silly, goofy, and pretty clumsy rooster chicken, which is pretty much the same thing, who kind of just brings the comedic relief to the overall movie, right? Wrong. Because in today's video, I have a theory about Heihei. Your opinion on Heihei might change forever. For a while, it seemed like Heihei's only reason for being in the movie was to bring the biggest laughs throughout the film. But there's actually more to this character than you know. In fact, if this theory ends up being true, Heihei might have been Moana's biggest protector and the reason that she was able to survive her journey to Te Fiti. Moana only had speechless companions with her on her journey, but one of those companions had been looking after Moana her entire life. That crazy chicken that we just can't help but love, we're gonna end up loving even more. Because Heihei stood by Moana's side from the very beginning of the movie, and there might have been a good reason for that. Sure, he wasn't noticeably helpful during her trip, and honestly in the movie, it sort of seemed like he was there simply for comedic relief. But the rooster was actually sent by the gods to help Moana. He was supposed to act as her guardian and guide her along her journey to return the heart, and while the idea that Heihei was created specifically to help Moana seemed a bit far-fetched at first, there's actually a lot of supporting evidence in Moana that would prove this theory to be true. But let's take a look at other Disney movies to help support this. Looking at Disney's track record with animal companions, you might be surprised at how many of them were actually chosen by gods, or even a character's ancestors to help them fulfill their destinies. And if they were granted guardian status by these eternal beings, then there is no reason that Heihei couldn't be one of those. Out of all of the official Disney princesses, the only three that didn't have a specific animal companion were Snow White, Belle, and Aurora, though they were constantly surrounded by random forest animals and talking furniture. So when you think about it, they still had something looking after them. In the cases of Mulan and Ariel, their companions were placed in their life specifically to help guide them and to make sure they were safe. Mulan had Mushu, who was ordered by the ancestors to bring Mulan back to her family safely. Granted, he sort of gave himself the job after he literally broke the Great Stone Dragon, but that wasn't the only protection job that he was given. Mushu's original guardian job came generations before Mulan, when he was charged with protecting Fa De, which ended in failure. But that doesn't mean that Mushu wasn't chosen again to be the guardian for Mulan. Heihei was to Moana. As for Ariel, her animal companion was literally bestowed upon her by a god, or at least a demigod. Sebastian wasn't only a talking crab who could groove like no other. He was specifically placed in Ariel's life by her father Triton, who was revealed in the Broadway play of The Little Mermaid to be the son of the god Poseidon. And according to Sebastian himself, he was ordered by Triton to take care of Ariel and to look after her. He was literally a guardian for her, appointed by gods. And honestly, the same argument could be made for all the other animal companions in Disney history, from Pascal the Chameleon in Tangled to Ray the Firefly in The Princess and the Frog. They all had very spiritual and guardian vibes to them, and there's no reason that Heihei would be any different from them. The rooster had been there to protect Moana since the very beginning, which in itself sort of adds to the idea that Heihei was sent by the gods to be Moana's guardian. If you look closely at Heihei, if he was indeed there since the beginning of Moana's life, one detail specifically stands out. Why didn't he age? This is actually very weird for a chicken and might honestly imply that there was a supernatural force at work that kept Heihei around to protect and guide Moana on her mission. And right now you might be thinking, well, how do we know if Heihei actually aged? Because we can't really tell a difference in the animation. There really isn't a noticeable difference between older and younger chickens, besides one little fact that older chickens tend to have thicker feet and legs than their younger counterparts, which is still super hard to distinguish in real life. So how do we know for sure Heihei didn't age? Well, after looking into it further, it turns out that Heihei did define the laws of nature in Moana with his agelessness, which could support the idea that he was Moana's grand, because if he aged properly, he would have been dead by the time Moana finally left the island. You see, the average lifespan of a chicken is between 5 to 10 years, and that's under prime circumstances. On an island where there are countless threats around him, Heihei would have been lucky to survive a few years before he bit the dust. But as you can see from the movie, that didn't happen. And despite Moana having Heihei for more than 15 years since she was 16 by the end of the movie, the rooster is literally defying the laws of nature. Heihei literally seems to be immortal, but maybe you need some more proof that Heihei is supernatural. Well, don't worry, because I have some from the movie itself. Even without Heihei's non-aging self as part of this discussion, the rooster defied death numerous times, which could once again hint towards his role as Moana's supernatural guardian. First off, it's important to note that judging by the way Disney portrayed Heihei in the movie, he would not have survived on his own. Heihei was such an unintelligent rooster and very clumsy that he wasn't even able to feed himself, which surely would have resulted in him starving to death unless he was a spiritual guardian of Moana, which would imply that Heihei didn't have to eat in order to survive. And that would explain the fact that he didn't seem to have any instincts that told him he needed to eat or what was edible. And building on that, in one scene towards the beginning of the movie, the rooster was shown trying to eat a rock, and then when he couldn't swallow it, not only did he spit it back up, but he continued pecking at it as if he couldn't tell that it wasn't food. While this could just imply simply how stupid Heihei actually was, it could also explain why the rooster was put there in the first place. The rooster simply not needing to eat to survive is based solely on his entire purpose to protect and guide Moana. But starvation wasn't the only threat to Heihei. The movie also showed that if Moana wasn't around the villagers, they would have actually tried to cook and eat Heihei. One of the villagers actually outright asked Moana why they hadn't yet, as he pointed out that Heihei lacked the basic intelligence required for pretty much everything. And it's funny, Moana actually replied by saying that she's sure there's more to Heihei than meets the eye, which because he is the spiritual guardian of Moana, I think Moana actually hit that one right on the head. Another prime example of Heihei's possible immortality, all in a matter of 2 minutes on screen, Heihei put himself and Moana in life-threatening situations like when he walked off the side of her boat and should have drowned. Moana ended up jumping into the water to save the rooster without realizing that she left the sail, and by the time she grabbed a hold of Heihei, her boat began to sail away. Now, there is no way that she would be able to catch up to the boat. It just physically makes no sense because in real life, when this happens, the wind will take the boat out to sea, and no human could swim that fast, especially with one rooster in her hand, unless there was some sort of intervention to allow Heihei to protect both of them from drowning and somehow keep their boat from sailing away. Now, this could be just argued that the ocean saved her, and honestly, that could be part of the theory itself, as if the ocean wanted Moana to get where she needed to be, Heihei had to be around as well. Because honestly, the ocean could have just took Heihei away if he was that much of a threat to Moana. Let's face it, Heihei was tasked with guiding Moana towards her destiny, and this explains his ability to survive the most harrowing of situations and escaping without even a scratch. But why would the Guardians grant Moana a little animal companion in the first place? And why would they choose Heihei of all animals out there? Why not Pua? Well, it stands within reason that Moana was chosen by the ocean gods or spirits to return the heart to Te Fiti. And though it's not exactly confirmed in the movie, the ocean revealed itself to Moana at the beginning of the movie for a reason, and even gave her the heart personally, which would imply that she was the chosen one. And much like every other chosen one in the Disney cinema history, she needed a companion to act as a sort of guide to get Moana where she needed to be. And that guide was Heihei, which would explain why he had been around since she was just a baby. The rooster may have protected Moana as she grew up on the island, and that's why he stayed by her side every step of the way. Plus, if Heihei was the only one that could go with Moana because he was her guardian, that could be why she almost died when she crossed the reef without him. When it was only Moana and Pua the pig, their boat quickly capsized and she was almost killed. But the second time she crossed, she had her proper guide, Heihei, with her, and his presence protected the boat during that first portion of their journey. As for why the gods chose this unintelligent animal, I have that answer as well. As Moana said in the beginning of the movie, intelligence isn't everything. She said sometimes our strengths lie beneath the surface, specifically referring to Heihei. The rooster was judged to be worthy based on his heart and not how smart he actually was. The gods knew that the rooster was loyal to Moana, and they knew this little chicken had the heart to keep Moana alive and to get her to her destiny. So Heihei wasn't just a chicken or rooster. He was actually a demigod himself, protected and sent by the gods themselves to look over Moana on her journey. But what do you think? Do you think there's more to Heihei than meets the eye? Could he be a demigod? Let me know down in the comments below, and check out this video right here, because if you enjoyed this theory, you'll probably enjoy this video right here, and I will see you over there. Bye bye.